Jake Harrison stared at the blue planet spinning slowly on his ship's main screen and felt the same wonder he always did when looking at new worlds. The year was 2387, and he had been exploring space for 15 years, but the sight of an unknown planet still made his heart beat faster. His ship, the New Frontier, was not the biggest or fastest in the human fleet, but it was home to him and his crew of 30 good people. Lisa Martinez looked up from her engineering station and wiped oil from her hands with a dirty cloth. She had been working on the ship's engines for 3 hours straight, and her dark hair was tied back in a messy knot. "Captain, the engines are running at peak efficiency," she said with a tired smile. "We can jump to the next system whenever you give the word." Ben Clark turned in his navigation chair and pointed at his screen. "The next system has 5 planets and 2 of them might have life," he said. "The computer says it will take us 6 hours to get there at normal speed." Ben was young for a navigation officer, but he knew his job better than anyone Jake had ever met. Dr. Kate Sullivan walked onto the bridge carrying her medical scanner and a cup of coffee. She was the ship's doctor, and had saved more lives than Jake could count. "The crew is healthy and ready for whatever we find out there," she said. "Though I still think we should be more careful about unknown planets." Jake nodded and was about to give the order to jump when the ship's communication system started beeping loudly. The sound was strange and urgent and made everyone on the bridge look up. Lisa ran to the communication station and started working on the controls. "Captain, we are getting a transmission, but it is encrypted," Lisa said. "This is not normal encryption, though. This is something much more complex." She worked for several minutes while everyone watched. "I think I can break it, but it will take time." Jake looked at Ben, who shrugged. "We are in empty space between systems," Ben said. "No one should be sending messages out here." The young man looked worried, and Jake did not blame him. In all his years of exploring space, Jake had learned that unexpected messages usually meant trouble. It took Lisa 2 hours to break the encryption, and when she did, her face went white. She looked at the screen and then at Jake, and her hands started shaking. "Captain, you need to see this," she said in a quiet voice. Jake walked over to her station and read the message on the screen. His blood turned cold as he understood what he was seeing. The message was between the 3 most powerful alien races in the galaxy. The Zephyrians, who looked like living crystals, controlled most of the galaxy's trade routes. The Kalari were a hive mind species that thought as one giant brain and controlled huge areas of space. The Valdrek were ancient beings made of pure energy who had existed for millions of years. The message was about humans, and what it said made Jake's stomach hurt. The 3 alien powers had formed a secret alliance, and they were planning to destroy every human world in the galaxy. They called it Operation Cleanse, and it was set to begin in 48 hours. Jake read the message 3 times to make sure he understood it correctly. The aliens saw humans as a threat to their control of the galaxy. They said humans were too unpredictable and found solutions to problems that should not have solutions. The message said humans were dangerous because they refused to follow the rules that other species followed. Dr. Sullivan read over Jake's shoulder and gasped. "They want to kill everyone," she said. "Every human in space and on Earth." Her voice was shaking and Jake could see tears in her eyes. Ben stood up from his chair and walked over to them. When he read the message, his young face became angry. "How can they do this?" he asked. "Humans have been part of the Galactic Council for 200 years. We follow the rules and pay our taxes." Lisa was still working at her station, and she looked up with more bad news. "Captain, the human fleet is scattered across dozens of systems," she said. "Most of our ships are on exploration missions or trade runs. Earth's defenses are strong, but not strong enough to fight 3 galactic powers at the same time." Jake felt the weight of command on his shoulders. He had to make a choice that could save or doom his entire species. If he tried to warn Earth, the alien powers might detect their transmission and destroy the New Frontier before they could deliver the message. If he stayed silent and tried to escape, billions of humans would die without warning. He thought about his family on Earth and his friends serving on other ships across the galaxy. He thought about human colonies where families were raising children and building new lives. He thought about all the humans who had no idea that 3 ancient alien races had decided they should not exist. Jake made his decision, and turned to Lisa. "Send a message on all human frequencies," he said. "Tell every ship, every station, and every colony what we learned. Tell them they have less than 2 days before the attack begins." Lisa looked at him with surprise. "Captain, they will detect our transmission," she said. "They will know we intercepted their message and they will come for us." Jake nodded and looked at his crew. These were good people who trusted him to keep them safe. He was about to put them all in terrible danger. "I know," he said. "But we cannot let our people die without warning them. Send the message." Lisa worked quickly and sent the warning to every human settlement in known space. Within minutes, replies started coming back as human captains and colony leaders received the impossible news. Some did not believe it. Others started making plans. Immediately, as the new frontier raced toward human space at maximum speed, Jake wondered if his warning would be enough. The human fleet was small compared to the alien armadas, and human technology was newer and less tested. But humans had survived ice ages and wars and plagues on Earth. Maybe they could survive this too. Jake did not know that his message would do more than warn his people. He did not know that it would wake something that had been sleeping in the human spirit since they first looked up at the stars. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were much more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The warning message reached Earth 12 hours after Jake Harrison sent it, and the response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of panic or surrender, something strange began happening across all human space. Admiral Ron Carter stood in the command center of Earth's defense headquarters, watching reports flood in from across the solar system, and he could not believe what he was seeing. Civilian cargo ships were attaching mining lasers to their hulls and calling themselves warships. Passenger liners were being converted into troop transports by their own passengers. Space stations that had never seen combat were mounting defensive weapons using parts from construction equipment. Even luxury cruise ships orbiting Saturn were demanding military-grade shields and weapons. "Sir, the Mars colony is requesting permission to move their entire moon defense grid," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her communication station. Amy was young but brilliant and had been tracking the responses all morning. "They want to position it between Earth and the outer system." Ron Carter was a career military man who had served in the human fleet for 30 years. He had fought pirates and explored dangerous systems, but he had never seen anything like this. "Permission granted," he said. "Tell them to coordinate with the Jupiter Mining Consortium." Ben Walsh walked into the command center carrying a tablet full of reports and shaking his head in amazement. Ben was the head of civilian space traffic control, and he looked overwhelmed. "Admiral, we have over 3,000 civilian ships requesting weapon upgrades," he said. "Farmers from the agricultural colonies are offering to ram alien ships with their grain haulers. The asteroid miners want to use their blasting charges as space torpedoes." On Mars, Dr. Amy Foster was working in her laboratory at the Prometheus Research Institute trying to understand the alien message better. She had been studying alien technology for 10 years, and something about the intercepted transmission bothered her. The 3 alien powers had not just decided to attack humans randomly. They were afraid of something. Amy read through the encrypted files again and found references to something called the human variable. The aliens had been watching human expansion for decades, and they were concerned about how humans solved problems. The files mentioned other species that had been destroyed because they became too unpredictable. She dug deeper into the alien databases and found historical records going back thousands of years. Species after species had been eliminated not because they were aggressive or powerful, but because they refused to follow established patterns. The galaxy had been controlled by the same 3 powers for so long that they saw any change as a threat. Amy called Admiral Carter on Earth and shared her discovery. "Sir, they are not just attacking us because we are growing stronger," she said. "They are attacking us because we think differently. They cannot predict what we will do next, and that scares them." Ron Carter listened to Amy's report while watching. His tactical display filled with more impossible defense plans. A retirement community on Europa had organized all their residents into a communication network that could track alien ships across 3 star systems. Children on Luna were using their school computers to run attack simulations. Dr. Foster, "I think they have good reason to be scared." he said. On the agricultural world of New Texas, Sam Rodriguez was learning just how scared the aliens should be. Sam had been a farmer all his life and had never thought about military strategy. But when the warning came, he did what farmers do best. He organized his neighbors and started solving problems. The colony had no military weapons and no trained soldiers, but it had 2 million people who knew how to work together. Sam set up a meeting in the main grain storage facility, and within hours every farmer, rancher, and shop owner on the planet was there. "We have 40 tractors with earth-moving blades," said Mary Johnson, who ran the northern farms. "We can use them to build defensive positions around the spaceport." Mary was a tough woman who had survived 3 bad harvest seasons and was not about to let aliens destroy her world. "The communications satellites can be reprogrammed to create an early warning network," added Joe Parker, who maintained the planet's computer systems. "If we link them with the mining worlds in the next system, we can see the aliens coming from 2 days away." Sam looked around the room at people he had known all his life. These were not soldiers or space pilots, but they were humans, and that was apparently enough to make 3 galactic powers want them dead. "We are going to show these aliens what happens when you threaten a human colony," he said. While New Texas organized its defenses, Jake Harrison and his crew were discovering something incredible on a remote planet at the edge of human space. The New Frontier had stopped for emergency repairs when Ben Clark detected artificial structures on the planet's surface. The ruins were ancient and clearly built by an intelligent species, but the architecture was strange and unsettling. Dr. Kate Sullivan took readings with her scanner and found that the civilization had been destroyed over 50,000 years ago. Lisa Martinez found the most important discovery deep inside the largest building: stone tablets covered with symbols that told the story of a species that had once challenged the 3 galactic powers. The translation computer worked slowly, but the story it revealed made everyone on the crew go silent. The extinct species had been explorers and inventors who refused to accept that some problems could not be solved. They had developed new technologies and found ways to travel between stars that the established powers had never seen before. They had been growing stronger and more independent when the Zephyrians, Collery, and Valdrek had formed an alliance to destroy them. The final tablet was a warning written in dozens of languages, including one that was almost identical to ancient human writing. It told future species to beware the 3 powers and to never let them know how dangerous free thinking could be. Jake Harrison stood in the ruins reading the ancient warning and realized that humans were not the first species to face this threat. But they might be the first species strong enough and stubborn enough to survive it. As reports continued to reach Earth, Admiral Carter began to understand that something fundamental had changed in human space. The warning message had not caused panic, but had instead awakened something that had been sleeping in the human spirit for generations. Dr. Amy Foster published her research findings on every human network, and the response was immediate. Scientists began sharing classified research openly. Engineers started working together across colonial boundaries. Military officers found themselves taking orders from farmers and shop owners who had figured out better ways to organize defenses. The galaxy's 3 most powerful species had made their plans based on what they knew about other civilizations. They expected humans to either surrender or fight using conventional military strategies. They had no idea that humans had spent their entire history surviving impossible situations by refusing to follow anyone's rules, including their own. The 48-hour deadline approached. Something unprecedented was happening across human space. A species that had been scattered across dozens of star systems was coming together, not through central command, but through pure human stubbornness. They were about to prove that the most dangerous thing in the galaxy was not advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but the simple human refusal to give up. The 3 alien powers were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humans a common enemy and a reason to show the galaxy what they were really capable of when they stopped trying to fit in and started being themselves. The alien fleets arrived at the edge of human space expecting to find scattered defenses and panicked civilians, but instead they encountered something that made their commanders pause in confusion. The Zephyrian crystal ships hung in perfect formation, their commanders analyzing what they were seeing through sensors that had never failed them before. Commander Zell Prime of the Zephyrian fleet had conquered 17 different species in his 3,000-year career, and he knew how battles were supposed to unfold. Weaker species either surrendered immediately or put up desperate last stands using their best technology and most experienced warriors. What he was seeing made no sense according to any military doctrine he had ever studied. Human cargo ships were flying directly at his battle cruisers while launching small fighter craft from their cargo holds. Civilian mining vessels were using their industrial equipment to slice through alien hull plating, like it was soft metal. Even stranger, some ships seemed to be operating with no plan at all, flying in random patterns that should have made them easy targets but somehow kept them alive in the battle zone. Commander Steve Wright led a squadron of 12 human fighters against a formation of 60 Kalari ships and did something that should have been suicide. Instead of following standard attack formations, Steve told his pilots to forget everything they had learned in flight school and just stay alive any way they could. The Kalari hive mind had conquered hundreds of worlds by using perfect coordination between their ships. Every Kalari pilot thought with the same brain and moved with the same purpose, making their fleets nearly impossible to defeat. But when they tried to predict human movements, they found themselves facing opponents who had no idea what they were going to do next. Steve Wright dove his fighter toward a Kalari destroyer, and at the last second rolled sideways and fired at a completely different target. His wingman Lisa Chen flew upside down while shooting at 3 ships simultaneously. Pilot after pilot broke every rule of space combat and somehow survived encounters that should have killed them instantly. The Kalari hive mind tried to adapt to human tactics but found it impossible because there were no tactics to learn. Each human pilot fought differently and made decisions that even they could not explain. The hive mind had spent millions of years learning to fight logical, predictable enemies, but humans were neither logical nor predictable. On Earth, General Linda Hayes was coordinating a planetary defense that violated every principle of military organization. Citizens with no combat training were operating advanced weapon systems after watching short instruction videos. Retired people were using their life experience to solve tactical problems that computer simulations said were impossible. The capital city had been turned into a fortress using materials from construction sites, shopping centers, and sports stadiums. When Valdric energy beings tried to attack the city directly, they found that humans had somehow created defenses using everything from mirrors to old television antennas. Mary Phillips was a schoolteacher who had never held a weapon in her life. But when the Valdric tried to possess her mind, they discovered something that shocked them. Human minds were not organized like other species. Where aliens had neat, orderly thought patterns, humans had chaotic creative processes that actually hurt the energy beings when they tried to take control. The Valdric had existed for millions of years and had possessed the minds of countless species. But human consciousness was unlike anything they had encountered. Human thoughts jumped randomly between subjects, mixed emotion with logic, and constantly contradicted themselves. When the ancient energy beings tried to impose order on human minds, they found themselves damaged by the contact. Dr. Kate Sullivan made a discovery aboard the New Frontier that explained why aliens found humans so difficult to fight. She had been studying brain scans of the crew during combat and found that human neural activity increased dramatically under stress, while alien brains showed the opposite pattern. "Captain, we are literally getting smarter when things get dangerous," she told Jake Harrison as he piloted the ship through a field of crystal debris. "Other species become more focused and specialized under pressure, but humans become more creative and unpredictable." Jake was barely listening because he was too busy trying to keep his ship alive while fighting 6 Zephyrian crystal ships with a cargo hauler that had been converted into a fighter in less than 2 hours. Lisa Martinez had somehow attached mining lasers to the hull, and Ben Clark was using the navigation computer to predict enemy movements while flying the ship like a drunk asteroid miner. The battle for human space continued for 3 days, and with each passing hour, the alien commanders found themselves more confused and frustrated. Their overwhelming technological advantage seemed meaningless against opponents who used cargo containers as shields and turned construction equipment into weapons. On the mining world of New Austin, the colonists discovered that humans could adapt alien technology in ways that should have been impossible. Engineer Bob Taylor took apart a crashed Zephyrian fighter and within 6 hours had figured out how their crystal technology worked. By the end of the day, He had 20 mining robots shooting crystal energy beams at attacking alien ships. The aliens had spent thousands of years perfecting their technology and considered it impossible for primitive species to understand crystal harmonics or energy manipulation. But humans did not try to understand the technology completely. They just figured out how to make it work for them. Dr. Amy Foster on Mars made another breakthrough when she analyzed the alien weapons that human forces had captured. The three galactic powers had been using the same basic technologies for millions of years with only small improvements. They had become so advanced that they had stopped being innovative. "Sir, they are like old machines that work perfectly but cannot change," Amy reported to Admiral Carter. "We are like children with new toys who try everything to see what happens. They know more, but we learn faster." The tide of battle began to shift as human improvisation met alien perfection and found ways to win. Cargo ships rammed battle cruisers while their crews escaped in mining pods. Civilian pilots used their knowledge of asteroid fields to hide from sensors that could detect military ships, but could not find modified civilian craft. Sam Rodriguez on New Texas organized the farming colonies into a communication network that could track alien fleet movements across entire star systems. Using nothing but agricultural satellites and determination, the farmers created an intelligence network that gave human forces advance warning of every alien attack. As the first week of fighting ended, alien commanders found themselves in a position they had never experienced before. They were losing battles against opponents who should have been defeated in hours. Even worse, they were starting to receive reports of human attacks on alien supply lines and support bases. The humans were not just defending themselves anymore. They were taking the fight to their enemies using tactics that no military computer could predict or counter. The galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous thing about humans was not their technology or their numbers, but their absolute refusal to accept defeat even when defeat should have been inevitable. The three most powerful species in the galaxy had awakened something in humanity that they did not understand and could not control. The age of predictable galactic warfare was ending and the age of human innovation was about to begin. Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of his ship looking at a tactical display that showed something impossible. Human forces were not just defending anymore, they were attacking alien homeworlds across the galaxy. Admiral Ron Carter had approved, a plan that should have been pure suicide but was somehow working. "Captain, we have reports coming in from 12 different systems," Lisa Martinez said from her engineering station. "Human forces are hitting alien supply bases and winning." She looked up from her screens with amazement in her eyes. A group of mining ships just destroyed a Kalari command center using nothing but explosive charges and determination. The plan had been simple in the way that only truly crazy ideas could be simple. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack human worlds again, human forces would strike at the heart of alien territory. Every available ship from cargo haulers to luxury yachts had been converted into attack vessels and sent to targets that should have been unreachable. Dr. Amy Foster had discovered something incredible about alien technology while studying captured equipment. The three galactic powers had built their entire civilization around the idea that their technology was too advanced for other species to understand or copy. Their security systems were designed to stop conventional attacks, not the chaotic improvisation that humans use. Lisa Martinez had taken this discovery and turned it into the foundation of human strategy. Instead of trying to build better versions of alien technology, she focused on making alien technology do things it was never designed to do. She created hybrid ships that combined human engineering with alien components in ways that violated every known law of physics. The results should not have worked, but they did because humans refused to accept that they should not work. A cargo ship equipped with Zephyrian crystal technology could jump between star systems in seconds. Mining vessels with Kalari hive mind computers could coordinate attacks across dozens of light years. Even old passenger ships became deadly when equipped with Valdrek energy weapons. Commander Steve Wright found himself leading a fleet of impossible ships against the Zephyrian homeworld and winning battles that no computer simulation had ever predicted. His pilots had stopped following any kind of military doctrine and were making up new tactics in the middle of combat. "Blue Leader, this is Red 5, came a voice over the communication system. I just used a garbage scow to take out a crystal dreadnought. These aliens really need to learn how to expect the unexpected. The Zephyrians had built their military around perfect crystal formations that had never been defeated in 3 million years of warfare. But human pilots flew through their formations like they were racing through asteroid fields, turning precision attacks into chaotic melees where anything could happen. On the political front, diplomat Carol Baker was doing something that should have been impossible. She was convincing other species across the galaxy to rebel against the 3 major powers. Her message was simple and devastating because it was true. Humanity has proven that the great powers can be defeated, she told representatives of dozens of minor species during secret meetings. We are not asking you to join our war. We are showing you that their war can be won. The response was immediate and widespread. Species that had been under alien control for thousands of years began their own uprisings. The Kalari found their supply lines cut by rebellious slave worlds. The Zephyrians lost control of trading posts they had owned for millennia. The Valdrek discovered that species they had dominated for eons were suddenly refusing to obey. Dr. Kate Sullivan made a breakthrough that explained why humans were so effective at inspiring rebellion in other species. She had been studying alien psychology and found that most species in the galaxy had evolved to accept hierarchical structures where stronger beings ruled over weaker ones. Humans are different, she explained to Jake Harrison as they traveled toward another impossible battle. We evolved on a world where cooperation and innovation were more important than following orders. When other species see humans refusing to accept defeat, they remember that they can choose to fight too. The Valdrek made their most serious mistake when they decided to attack human minds directly. The ancient energy beings had never failed to dominate the consciousness of any species they encountered. But when they tried to possess human colonists on the farming world of New Colorado, they discovered something that terrified them. Human minds were not just chaotic, they were actively hostile to mental invasion. When the Valdrek tried to impose their will on human consciousness, they found themselves pulled into thought patterns that damaged their energy forms. Some Valdrek entities were actually destroyed by contact with human minds that refused to be controlled. Sarah Wilson was a librarian on New Colorado who had never thought about mental combat. But when a Valdrek tried to possess her mind, she fought back using pure human stubbornness. Instead of trying to block the alien presence, she absorbed it and forced the energy being to experience human emotions and memories. The Valdrek entity found itself experiencing things it had never felt before. Human concepts of love, friendship, and sacrifice were so alien to its ancient consciousness that contact with them caused permanent changes to its energy patterns. Instead of possessing Sarah's mind, the Valdrek found its own consciousness altered by the experience. Lisa Martinez achieved something that alien scientists had said was impossible when she figured out how to reverse engineer Valdrek energy technology using spare parts from a food processor and determination. Her hybrid energy weapons should not have worked, but they did because she refused to accept that they could not work. The aliens spend millions of years perfecting their technology, she explained to a group of human engineers. We spend 6 hours figuring out how to make it do something new. They know everything about how their weapons work, but we know how to make them work differently. The war reached a turning point when human forces achieved something that had never happened in galactic history. They forced all 3 major powers to fight defensive battles simultaneously. Alien commanders who had spent eons conquering other species found themselves trying to protect their own worlds from opponents they could not predict or understand. Admiral Ron Carter received a message from the Galactic Council requesting negotiations, and he almost laughed. The same council that had ignored human requests for better treatment for 2 centuries was suddenly interested in talking. But Carter was not interested in simple peace talks. They want to negotiate surrender terms. He told Jake Harrison during a secure communication, but we are not going to accept going back to the way things were before. The galaxy needs to change, and we are going to make sure it does. The 3 galactic powers had made a fundamental error in their understanding of human nature. They had assumed that humans would fight like other species using conventional tactics and accepting defeat when it became inevitable. Instead, they had awakened something in humanity that had been waiting for the right moment to show itself. Dr. Amy Foster published her final report on human adaptability, and it became required reading for every species in the galaxy. She proved that humans were not just lucky or stubborn, but were actually evolution's answer to stagnation. They were a species designed by their harsh homeworld to find solutions where none should exist. As reports of human victories continued to flood in from across the galaxy, Jake Harrison realized that the war was ending, but the real change was just beginning. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had proven that the established order of the galaxy was based on fear rather than strength. The age of the three great powers was ending, and the age of infinite possibility was about to begin. 6 months after the first alien attack, Jake Harrison stood in the Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Haven, watching history being made. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy had gathered to hear Admiral Ron Carter speak about the new galactic order that humanity was proposing. The three great powers sat in their traditional places of honor, but their representatives looked different now. The Zephyrian crystals had lost some of their perfect shine and their formations were less rigid. The Kalari hive mind delegates showed signs of individual thought that would have been impossible before contact with humans. Even the ancient Valdrek energy beings seemed more solid and present than they had in millions of years. "We do not want your territory or your resources," Admiral Carter said to the assembled delegates. "We do not want to rule over anyone or collect tribute from conquered worlds. What we want is something that has never existed in this galaxy before." He paused and looked around the great hall, meeting the eyes of creatures from 1,000 different worlds. "We want freedom for every species to grow and learn and become whatever they can be without interference from those who think they know better." The proposal that Carter presented shocked the galactic community because it was unlike any peace treaty in recorded history. Humans were not demanding payment or territory from their defeated enemies. Instead, they were demanding the end of the system that had kept the galaxy locked in stagnation for millions of years. Dr. Amy Foster stood up to present the scientific evidence that supported humanity's revolutionary ideas. She had spent months studying the history of galactic civilization, and her discoveries had changed how everyone understood progress and development. Every great civilization in this galaxy reached a point where they stopped growing and started controlling, she said. The Zephyrians achieved perfect crystal technology, and then spent 3 million years preventing anyone else from developing different approaches. The Kalari created perfect unity of thought, and then eliminated any species that thought differently. The Valdrek reached the pinnacle of energy manipulation, and then suppressed any research that might lead to new discoveries. Her presentation showed that the galaxy had been trapped in a cycle of stagnation for eons. Each time a species developed new ideas or technologies, the three great powers would either absorb them into their existing systems or eliminate them entirely. The result was a galaxy where innovation had been replaced by repetition. Lisa Martinez demonstrated the practical results of human thinking by showing hybrid technologies that combine the best features of all species developments. Ships that used Zephyrian crystal technology with human chaos theory were faster and more efficient than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Kalari hive mind computers enhanced with human creativity could solve problems that had puzzled scientists for millennia. The Zephyrian delegate Zell Prime spoke for his people and admitted something that shocked everyone present. "Our crystal technology has not advanced in 1 million years," he said. "We achieved what we thought was perfection and stopped trying to improve. Contact with human chaos theory has allowed us to make discoveries we thought were impossible." Commander Sec 9 of the Kalari hive mind made an even more startling admission. "Individual thought was forbidden in our society because we believed it would weaken our unity," she said. "But human pilots have shown us that individual creativity can enhance collective strength. We are learning to value different perspectives within our shared consciousness." The most surprising speaker was ancient Valdrek entity, known as First Light, who had existed since the beginning of galactic civilization. "We thought we had experienced everything the universe could offer," it said in a voice like distant thunder. "Human unpredictability has given us new experiences and emotions we had forgotten were possible." We have learned that wisdom can become a prison if it stops us from growing. Carol Baker presented the political framework for the new galactic government, and it was as revolutionary as everything else humans had proposed. Instead of the hierarchical system where strong species ruled over weak ones, she outlined a cooperative structure where each species contributed their unique strengths to shared projects. The goal is not to make everyone the same, she explained. The goal is to help everyone become the best version of themselves while working together toward common purposes. Sam Rodriguez had been invited to speak as a representative of ordinary humans who had played a crucial role in the war. The farmer from New Texas stood before the greatest gathering in galactic history and spoke in the simple, direct way that had helped organize resistance across human space. "The universe does not care what you think is impossible," he said. "It only cares what you are willing to try. For too long this galaxy has been afraid of change because change is unpredictable. But unpredictable does not mean bad. It just means new." His words seemed to resonate with representatives from hundreds of species who had spent their entire existence following rules made by others. For the first time in galactic history, the smaller species had a voice, and they were using it to demand the right to determine their own futures. Jake Harrison watched from the observation deck as the vote was taken to establish the new galactic confederation. The result was overwhelming in favor of change, with even many of the former subject species of the three great powers supporting the human proposal. Dr. Kate Sullivan joined him at the observation window, and they watched ships from dozens of different species working together to build the first truly democratic galactic government. "Do you think it will work?" she asked. Jake smiled as he watched human and alien engineers collaborating on projects that would have been considered impossible just months earlier. "I think the galaxy is about to find out what happens when you stop accepting limitations and start exploring possibilities." The new Galactic Confederation established its headquarters on a world that had been devastated by centuries of warfare between the great powers. Within months, it had been transformed into a center of learning and innovation, where the best minds from every species worked together on challenges that no single civilization could solve alone. Young humans and aliens attended the same schools and learned that differences in thinking were not problems to be eliminated, but resources to be valued. Children who grew up together developed hybrid perspectives that combined the best aspects of multiple species' approaches to life and learning. Lisa Martinez became the head of the new Galactic Technology Exchange, where innovations were shared freely among all species instead of being hoarded by the powerful. Her first project was a starship designed by committee with contributions from every known civilization. The result was a vessel that could do things no single species had ever imagined. The galaxy began to change in ways that no one had predicted. Species that had been enemies for millions of years discovered they could work together when they had common goals instead of competing for dominance. Technologies that had been stagnant for eons began developing rapidly when different perspectives were applied to old problems. Admiral Ron Carter became the first elected leader of the Galactic Confederation, and his first official act was to establish exploration fleets made up of mixed species crews. These ships would venture into unknown regions of space, not to conquer new worlds, but to discover what wonders might be waiting in the vast, unexplored galaxy. The most important change was not political or technological but philosophical. The galaxy had learned that there were no superior species, only different approaches to existence. The rigid hierarchy that had controlled galactic civilization for millions of years crumbled as species began to value diversity over dominance. Jake Harrison took command of one of the new exploration fleets, and as his ship jumped into unknown space, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had unleashed their true power not through conquest or domination, but by proving that the only real limitations were the ones you accepted. The galaxy, once rigid and hierarchical, had become a place where anything was possible if you were willing to try something new.